For whatever reason, the light that I normally use to, for these videos is making a weird buzzing noise, so I hope it doesn't randomly explode in the middle of this video. So, hello folks, you have been waiting for this. This is going to be my sort of September update. This feels like a Yu-Gi-Oh channel. It's going to be a September version of my D-Robo's deck. I will if you guys like this, I'll make an October one, because I will be changing it to fit the meta. This was built to beat OTT, which I only faced 2 of in 8 rounds, so make of that what you will, but I think it's still pretty good against the matchup. But we're going to do it a bit differently this time than my usual deck profiles. I'm not going to like zoom in on each card and then we're going to, and then like read off the skills. I'm going to put up the cards on the screen, via editing, and then we're just going to talk about, I'm just going to be talking about why I play it, what its purpose is, and all that good stuff. So let's get right into it. So without much further ado, so we have our main grade 3 package in 4 great Daiyusha. It's very glary, isn't it? I don't really want all that glare, so let's just turn it down a little bit. So 4 great Daiyusha, and then for regular Daiyusha, as you can see, I've only gotten 2 of each OR and SVR. I want 4 of the SVR eventually, but 2 OR I'm fine with because I really like the new art too, so I'm fine with that. And then finally 2 of Mr. Silbard, who is very essential for the OTT matchup. So, Great Daiyusha is obviously, well, I'm going to start with Daiyusha itself. So this is your bread and butter of the deck. You want to first ride him every game, if possible, because the extra crit pressure, especially going first, is really huge. This is a bit of a dice rolly deck, where if you go first, you have insane pressure. If you go second, you have a lot less pressure. So, Daiyusha is your main form of pressure. He gets you an extra crit. You need to rest things to get extra 10k power. I'm going to talk about the best rest targets as we go through the deck. Great Daiyusha is your finisher. He's also your only form of hard plussing in the deck, which is a bit of a problem because every other Force clan like Kagero, Royals, Shadows, they all have, or also Spike Brothers to some extent, I guess. Well, I guess not really Spike Brothers, but with the Paladins and Kagero, they have some way of like hard plussing or hard minusing their opponent, whereas here, the only hard plus is Great Daiyusha, and until then you rely on your deck build to draw into the pieces that you need. And this is a deck that really needs those pieces, so that makes it a bit of a problem. The reason why we play Silbard is because the extra 5k and the extra crit especially, because against OTT, they're going to have protects and they're going to have PGs. You need to rip out at least 2 protects from their hand per turn, so you can need the Vanguard to get the extra crit, and you're going to need your rear guards to get extra crit, which is going to obviously help if you're running the 2 Silbards. But then, you can also rip out more PGs out of their hands by using Great Daiyusha. Also, first riding Great Daiyusha is usually a bad thing, but if you're going first and you have a Great Daiyusha in hand but no Daiyusha, I recommend rushing early and calling extra Grade 2s, because if your opponent cannot take them out, you're gonna ride this, and your rear guards will get a plus 10k buff, and so will your Vanguard, so you're suddenly swinging in tempo really hard. In some games and playtesting, when I was playing against OTT, I'd be going first, and then I would just call all my grade 2s, swing, and then next turn ride this, and sometimes I'd win on those turns because they don't have enough time to actually make up for the tempo that they've lost. So this is the grade 3 lineup. I will be changing it a little bit for something spicy that I'll be trying out, but that will be for another time. But for now, let's go over the grade 2s. So, for Dai-Dragon, the bread and butter of the deck, a staple in every Dimension Police, especially D-Robo deck, but especially in Standard, this is a hard staple 4 times. Then 4 Miracle Dandies. I think some people might think this is a little bit strange, but definitely 4. 3 is fine too, but 4 is what I want to go for. And then 3 of Mad Scepter X. So Mad Scepter X is our 10k vanilla, 10k shield, which is important. Dai-Dragon is the bread and butter, as I said. That Soul Blast 1 for plus 5k is very important. You definitely need it. You need that extra 5k because you ride this, 23, use this, 28, rest 1, 38, crit pressure. Or, for example, sometimes what you can do is actually pump yourself after you've ridden. Let's say, even if you don't have Great Daiyusha in hand, you pump yourself to 45 plus, so 46 or 48, and then you attack. And even if you don't have Great Daiyusha in hand, obviously you can drive check it, but usually your opponent will overcompensate in guarding because they're afraid of the Great Daiyusha coming. So you can kind of play with them a little bit like that by kind of putting extra power on the Daiyusha and then forcing them to get scared of the potential Great Daiyusha incoming. Then 4 Miracle Dandy. Why? Basically, he's a 15k shield because his skill is on Guardian Circle and is continuous. So you can guard with him from hand, and he's basically an extra 15k shield. And I think that's really good because one of my trigger lineup, which I think is needed because of Daiyusha currently, and just because of that, just the amazing shield, because it's good against OTT, and so is the 10k vanilla. And you know, often if I do call him down, my opponent will basically always is going to be hitting my rear guards just to get rid of it, because it's such an annoying target, because it just has so much shield. And I see the glare has returned once again. I'm not sure if I can do much about that right now, so I think we're going to have to work with that a little bit. Maybe I can move the light a bit further. Nope, looks like we're gonna have to work with it. So here's the Mad Scepter. I'm gonna have to put him up like that. I apologize for the glare, but it's just the angle of my light that makes it look like that. Moving on to grade 1s, we have 4 Die Brave, one of the other bread and butter cards. 4 Laurel, I underestimated how amazing he is. I'm playing 4 right now, but I think 3 is also pretty comfortable. And then 4, Die Mariner, which is also, I think, pretty comfortable as well. So these are our grade 1s. Die Brave is definitely a 4 of. I think that's going to stay as a 4 of in every single deck. Okay, I was messing around with the lighting a little bit, but it doesn't seem to help too much. But Die Brave is important because, again, plus 5k. Sometimes for a second skill, because then when your Vanguard hits the other Vanguard, you put him into Soldier Draw 1. If I don't have a grade 3, or if I don't have the first Daiyusha in my hand, I'll call him early just to, like, first attack boost. If they want 1 damage, they're gonna have to let me get an extra card in hand. You know, you also need that extra soul, because there were some games where I was running a bit low on soul, because you have 3 things that soul blast quite a bit. So, especially Die Mariner, it gets a bit expensive over time. And then Laurel is important because if you misride, he's your kind of like safety net. But even then, running into Daiyusha and then using Laurel is also pretty good, because you then, if they're on like 1 damage, it's like you either take this attack with 3 damage, or you have to waste a Perfect Guard, or waste 3 cards if it's Die Mariner. And Die Mariner is good for that. Like, he only gives the skills to the current Vanguard, so when you ride Great Daiyusha after that, the skill does fade out. So he's good. I was considering right before the tournament to put this down to 3 and put this down to 2. And by doing that, I would put in 2 Die Landers, and I'm not sure, I might still do, like, I'm planning to change some things, obviously, for BCS Cologne, but, you know, this is sort of what I ran with for the day, and then my starter is obviously Daiyusha. Now, for the trigger lineup, I'll just go over it like this. So we have the 4 heals, which I think is pretty self-explanatory, and don't need to go into that too much. Then 4 perfect draws, which is also pretty self-explanatory. You want to be running perfect draws if you can. And then the part that will upset some people, but some people will have already predicted it, which is 3 regular draws. Okay, so let me first go over my last triggers, which is 5 crits. I run them as 3 and 2 because then your opponent might think like, oh, I don't know if he's running 6 or 7 or 8. You know, it gets a bit confusing, and so they might get, you know, baited by the trigger counts. But reason why I play so many of this draw, because from all of the cards in the deck, this is the best rest target for Daiyusha, because you convert his 5k power and 5k shield into a 10k power buff for Daiyusha, and you don't want the shield in your hand anyway, so it works out quite well because of that. It's good rest fodder for Daiyusha, it's good rest fodder for Laurel. Otherwise, if I don't have him, I rest Laurel usually. I'll rest a Die Brave if I need to, usually grade 1s. Sometimes I rest extra Daiyushas if I don't plan to ride again, so that's also an option. But overall, this is sort of what I like to run with. I will be changing the trigger lineup a little bit over time. I think 6-6 is also perfectly fine, but the 7 draws weren't that bad for me. But the only problem, I was talking about this with some other DB players as well, is that then when you run this kind of lineup, your Great Daiyusha swing really doesn't have that much pressure, because there were many times when my opponent, you know, I'd attack with Great Daiyusha and they just take it if they're on like 3 damage, because they're like, well, I'm pretty sure he runs mostly draws anyway, so then he doesn't have any risk. So I think running the 8 crit build has more, you know, has more potential in that sense, because that way you have more pressure on the Great Daiyusha turn, but then you don't have as much of a good rest fodder, and you also don't see your pieces as often, I think. So I'm gonna try 6-6. I'm gonna try 7. I've been trying 7 crit, 5 draw, but you know, I'm kind of shifting between triggers. But honestly, I've been liking it. There was one game where I basically won because I checked 3 draws before my turn 3. So you know, that does kind of happen. So I just felt like it's important to talk about why I'm running this, because I know, myself and many others don't like these kind of draws, and I wanted to also mention that I normally don't really like them that much either. So I don't normally like these draw triggers, and a lot of other people don't like them either, so I just kind of want to talk about that. So I think the deck overall is really good. Sylvard, there were some games where I had 2 of him, some games where it was just 1, but it's always annoying. In terms of force markers, oops, my promo fell down. But in terms of force markers, usually what I do is I ride and put one on the Vanguard, and then once I use Daiyusha, I put one on the side. And then, I keep putting them on sides. I usually just keep one on the Vanguard, unless I see that my opponent has no PGs, and then, there's no sign of PGs, then I might stack a few more under Vanguard, but normally I'll keep them out of, out of the Vanguard, outside of the first one, just because I value powering up my Sylbard a lot more than that, because after you Great Daiyusha ride, he's going to be on 43 with just 1 force marker, which is already a big number. Then he's going to go down to 23, but you can double it to 46 with the Laurel, so you're once again hitting the threshold, and you usually don't need to hit much higher than that, so I think it's fine for that reason. So this is the deck that I ran for BCS London, and I think this, from my testing, I did test Standard quite a lot, so I think this was, from my testing, the better deck, the better list going in for the tournament. I'll be making some changes, and if I'm happy with them, then I'll make a video, and obviously if you guys want one, I'll make a video, but for now, that is going to be it for this little deck profile. It's a bit more of a different format than I usually do, but I do like it this way too, because I feel like I can spend less time reading effects and spend more time explaining why I play certain cards, so I hope that does make sense and that you do like it as well. I apologize for the slightly obnoxious lighting. I'll see if I can work on it. If not, then we're gonna have to roll with this for the next one as well. So that's me for me today. Don't forget to check out the second channel, to click the bell button, check out the social medias in the description, and join the Discord channel if you haven't already. But on that note, that's gonna be it for me today, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.